Jonathan Glennon, the defensive coordinator for the Eagles, taking over as the Cardinals head coach. This coaching hire, I'm going to predict it now. This is going to be a one and done head coaching job because this guy is a freak. I don't know if you saw him. I don't know if you saw him.
Adam Gase vibes from this dude.
Yeah, I see Adam Gase. He introduced himself to, I want to say it was Isaiah Simmons, and it was extremely cursed. Very odd. You can tell Isaiah Simmons is like, who the fuck's this guy? So
your new coach.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know. If you really think about the Cardinals next season, what's going to happen? Kyler's going to miss half the season. They're kind of in like this rebuild year. I almost feel like this is somewhat of like a Lovie Smith situation where it's like they're hiring him as kind of like a bridge coach, which is stupid in my opinion. Like having a bridge coach during a season like this, where they're basically hiring him like, hey, do as best as you can these 17 games, but pretty much you're going to be fired after this season. And because defensive coordinator, what kind of league are we in now? Oh yeah, offensive coordinator. Who was in the Super Bowl? The offensive the offensive coach Andy Reid, the offensive coach Nick Sirianni, the offensive coach Zach Taylor.
Yeah.
Shall I go on? The offensive coordinator Kyle Shanahan. It's like
Sean McVay, exactly.
Yeah,
the year before that. Yeah, the year before that was before Rams Bengals was also
they offense. Bruce Arians offense. Shall we go on?
Andy Reid.
Well, shall we go on? Oh,
the one
Sean Payton. Sean Payton. How about Sean Payton?
Yeah.
So it's like defensive. Not to say that you can't have a good defensive court. I mean, Bill Belichick's a prime example of that. But it's like the defensive-minded coaches typically don't succeed. Oh yeah, here's another one. Brian Daboll.
Yeah, Brian Daboll.
So it's like
Matt LaFleur.
Yeah, it's like most of the time the offensive side is the one that's going to be more successful. So this one I give an F. This is a terrible coaching hire, especially because of the way they went about it. They interviewed Sean Payton. They're like, no. They interviewed Jim Harbaugh. They're like, no. Then they interviewed Eric Bieniemy. They said, no.
B-Flow.
Yeah, Brian Flores.
Yeah.
Another defensive coordinator who might have been successful.
Way better.
No. Instead of they interview the defensive-minded Adam Gase.
Yeah, my biggest problem with this hire, if we want to call it that, is I feel like the resume of Brian Flores and Eric Bieniemy are just better.
Absolutely.
I mean, what does Eric Bieniemy have to do to get a job? And it's like, what has this guy proven in the NFL? Oh, that his defense can't get a sack when they were top 5 in the NFL and rushing the passer. Your strength was pass rushing, and if you got a lead, you would be able to get pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah.
But no, you were leaving Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney wide open in the flat. They got 2 wide open touchdowns. You weren't even making Patrick Mahomes work that hard for it.
Oh,
in the second half.
How about the fact that he didn't have an incompletion except for when he threw it out of bounds? He literally was perfect against you. In the second half.
Yeah, and you guys could not find Travis Kelce in the first half. That was the only thing they could do in the first half. And then you let Isaiah Pacheco run all over you, who's great, but you should be able to stop him when you have Ndamukong Suh, Fletcher Cox, all of those guys on the inside of the court.
All those good guys.
And then you have James Bradbury. That play comes down to discipline. You can't be holding him there. And then he said he held him and he was just hoping you don't call it. That's something you just have to coach out of your players because that's something that can't happen. Oh yeah, you have CJ Gardner-Johnson, you have Darius Slay, you have all this talent.
Yeah.
And you couldn't force the Chiefs, whose second best receiver after Travis Kelce was Juju Smith-Schuster in the Super Bowl, who was about to be out of the league.
Yeah.
Who we'll get to Juju later, because he had an interesting beef with AJ Brown.
Saw that, yeah.
Yeah. But like overall, it's like, okay, I'm gonna judge you by how you perform in the biggest game, and your defense just did not show up for you in that moment. Clearly, the offense showed up for Sirianni because Sirianni had his guys fired up. Jalen Hurts was near perfect except for the fumble, but Sirianni, as far as play calling, perfect. He called a perfect game. They gave you the ball and then you went straight up the field and scored. So it's like overall.
No, their offense was great.
Yeah, their offense was great. Defense, definitely a little bit overrated because you were able to rush the quarterback. But when you're going up against the superior offensive line to your defensive line, you didn't make any adjustments and you just let the Chiefs walk all over you. And then you have someone like Brian Flores. He's someone I look at as a guy who, if I was a player, I want to play for him. He's going to get me fired up. He's giving the good speeches. He's personal, can read personnel. He wanted Deshaun Watson instead of Tua, so he wasn't afraid to go out there.
Justin Herbert, you mean?
Yeah. No, he wanted Deshaun Watson too.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
He wanted to trade Tua for Deshaun Watson. So it's like he's willing to take a risk with that could fall out on him or go all the way up. So he has the diamond hands to be able to make those big calls, even if it's not going to pan out, and then take the fall for it.
Yeah.
He did that in Miami. I thought him and Bieniemy much better choices than this guy.
Yeah, which kind of,
And then Kyler.
Yeah.
Too. There's the Kyler side of it because Kyler wanted Bieniemy, wanted Brian Flores, wanted a say in the coaching hire. Obviously, as a black quarterback, he wanted a black head coach. And I'm sure that was something that was very important to him and other players on the team like Budda Baker. So it's like the fact that the Cardinals weren't even able to do that. And then after you fire Kingsbury, you're like, oh, we need to go defense now. But you basically hire someone who, what was Cliff Kingsbury's weakness?
A lot of things.
But